Welcome, everybody, to What Now with Anna and Eric.
I should not have given you that responsibility.
I'm Eric.
Some serious announcing. I'm Anna.
He's Anna. Oh, man. We are just two fairly normal people talking about the Bible.
Truth.
This is your first time here. We're going through the Bible chronologically, and we are in the New Testament talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. Man.
And we are technically on day 295.
Look at that. I cannot wait for our 300 party.
The 300 party. Are we having one of those?
I don't know.
Honestly, if we were going to have a party, we should have had a New Testament party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID has taken away our party. We had some party episodes. I think, didn't we have an Easter episode like where we interviewed people? I think.
Oh, yeah, we did. In the year.
I think that was last year.
Yeah, that was last year.
Wow. 2020 just sucked the life out of all the fun.
Yeah. Out of everything.
Oh.
Life change.
But, hey, we're here now. We're in it. We got some.
And
Mark,
tell
Luke,
you what,
and John.
2020 did not stop us from reading the Bible.
Can't take our Bible away from us.
True.
All right. So, Anna, where are we going today? What do you got?
Well, I'm realizing. So you said you lost your notes? Wait, I'm not just throwing you under the bus. I'm saying that because I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, almost all of my verses are from the exact same story. And I didn't have notes on anything else. I thought, did I put those somewhere else? I swear I would have had more notes than just that, but.
Wow. So this is great though. All of this, and we talked about it last week. We talked about the fact that there's just so much, but something stood out to you so much that it was the one story that you wanted to talk about. So this is going to be big. Buckle in. This is going to be huge.
Yeah. Before that though, I did want to say, did it feel like there was a lot of repetition this week? Did it feel like that to you?
There is.
Okay, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but I thought I had heard a bunch of the things from this week last week, but then I couldn't figure out if that was actually true or if in my mind, because I had read the book of Luke for a different Bible plan. So I was like, am I just remembering reading Luke? And I couldn't figure it out. Did you feel that way?
Because we were, and I think that might be why, because last week we weren't Luke heavy. This week we were not very Matthew and Mark heavy. We were Luke heavy this week.
Yeah, Luke was like every day. There was actually a day just Luke. But
last week we had like one section, like one chunk of verses from Luke, and that was it. And then the rest were, so it was very, it might seem like it, but if you're definitely reading Luke in another capacity, then
I finished it. I'm past it, but I did just keep thinking, I'm like, I swear I heard all of these stories before, and not just like because it repeats the same one 3 times, but like I was like, I swear I heard this last week. So basically what I settled on was the story of Lazarus, which is a big one. We usually don't talk about the big ones, but I did a bunch of notes on that.
And we learned Jesus is a crier, so it's okay to cry if Jesus can cry.
Exactly. Jesus wept, which is the shortest verse in the English language, but not actually in the original language.
I feel like we've had this conversation somewhere. It might have been with students. I think it was with students we had this conversation. Yeah. That, yes, only in the English translation is it the shortest.
And then the actual shortest one in the original language is like some really obscure verse that seems way longer than it should be for being the shortest. But I can't remember what it is right at this moment. So we looked at the story of Lazarus. So Lazarus is Jesus's friend. We kind of had an intro to him, his sisters, Martha and Mary, previously. And so we're coming on to this point, and Lazarus straight up dies. If you did not read it, so that happens.
Straight up dies.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So to look at the verses that I put, so it's in John chapter 11. Chapter 11, starting verses 4-5. But when Jesus heard about it, he said, Lazarus's sickness will not end in death. Spoiler alert, he dies. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of Man will receive glory from this. So, although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he does not go. And this is just like a straight up, I think you get a really intense glimpse of Jesus throughout this story. Like, not just what he does, but who he is, who he is. And he's talking about Lazarus' sickness, and he's like, listen, this is going to be for the glory of God, and it's not gonna go horribly wrong. But then the clincher part is although Jesus loved them, he does not go, because it's going to turn out for the best, quote unquote, which is what I thought was very interesting and very much applies to us. And then further down, we'll see more of this. But I felt like this very much exemplifies those moments in our lives where we are struggling and we're going through trials and we're asking God, like, do you not love me? Like, you didn't stop this. You didn't change it. You didn't, whatever it was. And here's Jesus, and we're seeing this exact moment where he knows what's going to happen, but he does not go, even though he loves them.
Well, and that's how when I read through it, I think that's like the perfect picture of that understanding of Jesus literally lets them go through pain and suffering.
Yes.
And knowing, but he also feels that same pain and suffering. Like, he is still heartbroken. Like, he still feels it. And then they come through it together. Like, I think that's like the picture of it for me as a whole is to look at it and say, wow, Jesus could have fixed all this, and Mary and Martha, they wouldn't have had to feel this. Lazarus wouldn't have had to die. He kind of took the brunt of it in this one, but he wouldn't have had to go through that. But Jesus, it happens. They feel that pain. They're in it. Jesus is in it with them, and they get through it. Like, it's the whole picture of how it plays out.
Yeah.
Which I think is so important in this.
So to go along with that, then it continues. So 11:14-15. So they don't understand. The disciples don't understand that what Jesus is talking about. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there. For now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. And then, they arrive. And like you said, Mary and Martha are in pain. There's this one moment where Martha comes up and she says, God, if you had been here, it wouldn't have happened. Then she kind of talks for a little bit. And then in verse 32, it says, when Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been there. She repeats what her sister said, my brother would not have died. And again, it just goes back to the pain and the trials that we feel. But then comes together. Jesus raises him from the dead. It's a big deal. And what's interesting about this too is, or at least when I have heard people talk about this specific passage and why does Jesus wait? Well, a big part of what they talk about is that it was more miraculous that he was dead for a while and then he came back to life. Because if he had come back to life right away, as Jesus did bring people back to life before, people could say, well, they must not have really been dead. But but Lazarus was in a tomb for 3 days. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, he's like getting to the point where his body is probably gross. And then Jesus raises him from the dead. And it also pinpoints us too to Jesus's own resurrection. Spoiler alert, that's going to come up, where Jesus is in the tomb for 3 days. Like, he is dead.
Yeah.
And then he comes back alive. Like, at that point, when you, like, people go to the hospital and they call it after so long, They
Yeah.
have been called at this point. Like
Yes.
they are dead for certain.
And I think it speaks to the, I guess, obedience and faith in Jesus and in God in this, and understanding that to go through that, then you understand how great it is on the other side. When you really, like, Martha and Mary must have oh man, remember when we ran up to him and we told him, like, you could have fixed this?
You
And
could
then he
fix this.
fixes it, and they must have been like, oh man, we probably should have just understood that he was gonna fix it. Like, he's kind of like, he's got this.
Well, at the same time, though, who would have expected that?
Exactly. And that's what I think, once again, we feel that we put God in this small box instead of understanding what he is truly capable of. And yeah, if you were here, you could have fixed it. And he's like, just hang on a minute, I got this. And then they're like, wow, we doubted, or we questioned, and man, no, he did do something unbelievable. And God is capable of doing unbelievable things.
I like how you said that. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I got this. Like
Totally.
when you look at your own life and you're going through these moments, you're like, God, where were you? What are you doing? Just picture God. Hang on a minute.
Hold,
I
please.
got this.
I don't no worries.
I'm just picturing him saying that. I'm like, oh, yeah. I got that.
Just
Totally
hang on.
saying
We
that.
got this. Don't worry.
Yeah. But I mean, that is so true.
Mhm.
I do have one other verse that's not related to this, but do you have things?
Well,
that you
I
wrote
thought,
down?
once again, repetitive. I think the thing that came up is Jesus loves the little children.
Yes,
You
he
know,
does.
that
He
come
loves
to
them.
me, let the children come to me. Do not hinder them. And I think, at least for me, when I read that, I always get into conversations with people that don't believe in it, and they question it, and they have all of these questions that takes the childlike faith, or the, as some people would say, blind faith, out of it. And I feel like my relationship with Jesus and how I dove into it, it was at a point where I dove in head first, and I had a lot of blind faith, and I didn't question a lot of it because I saw him working in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I love these verses, because it is like, that's how it needs to be. There's some points of this where you just need to trust, and you need to believe, and you need to come at it with this childlike faith. And I love when this verse pops up, or these sections pop up, because it's that reminder of, it's okay to be a little childish when it comes to this, and it's okay
Yeah.
to believe in that way. And I get a feeling of your faith in Jesus. It's fun. It's exciting. Like that, when I think of comparing it to children and using that, it gets me kind of excited about faith and belief.
Yeah.
So, unlike Old Testament, which kind of got us into and ends in death a lot.
Everybody dies.
Yeah, so the childlike thing, it is the going through it in a way that is joyous and bubbly, and I hate to say it, but imaginative, like being able to see God for the awesome power that he is, not the humanized, oh, he can only do this part
Yeah.
of it.
And
So,
it very much is that humanization of God,
Mhm.
Because we
So
like to humanize everything. I mean, that's TV.
we like to humanize everything because
Humanize
humans are so
everything.
awesome.
Yeah.
We can fix everything. So, all right. So that was mine. Children.
A side point, there was another moment where Jesus got a bunch of disciples and sent them out in pairs. And once again, where's Judas?
Who
I mean,
pulls
at
that
least there
stuff?
were more people, so.
Once again, things that I think about. All right, so they're going out, and I wonder, because I do feel that Jesus has a sense of humor.
He
So I
does.
wonder if he's like, okay, you and you go, you and you go. And like Judas and whoever the last one are just standing there. And they're like, and that guy's just like,
Like
ugh.
getting picked for dodgeball
Yeah, and like you're like,
folk school.
oh, is he really gonna send me with? Oh, he did. Yep.
He did.
All right, here I go.
The draw straws.
Yeah, I just don't know how that goes, but
I mean, I feel like Jesus would have definitely put the person who would be least swayed, but or maybe they had after every time you went out with Judas, a one-on meeting with Jesus, like, all right, what did you talk about?
yeah,
Do we need to go over the truth of the Bible?
he always maybe he always sent the tattletale. Like he knew, like I'm gonna send the person that is gonna come back and just tattle on Judas all
Who's
the
the
time.
tattletale of the Bible? It's got to be John. I mean, he was Jesus's favorite, right?
That's why. And he made sure it was known. He's like, oh yeah, I'm totally
I'm totally
his favorite. Oh, but oh man.
good times. But Judas,
Yeah.
yeah. We are all Judas in some way. So, I mean, to some extent, we probably shouldn't be making fun of him.
He gets a bad rap.
Yes. There is this moment where he's talking to, well, actually, it's depending on what book you read, the individual who asks the question sort of changes a little bit. But basically, a man comes up to Jesus and is like, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus is like, well, do you do these things? Do you not murder? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, no, I totally do that. And then Jesus says, all right, then there's only one thing left to do. You have to take all your possessions and you got to give them away. And one of the translations says, and the man was very saddened because he was very wealthy. And it kind of goes on and, take from that what you will. People interpret it differently. But Jesus is saying, I tell you the truth, it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of the needle, which actually I believe in this case, and I'm going to say double check this because I'm saying this from memory. I believe the eye of the needle is actually a gate in the city, and it was only so high, so a camel couldn't walk through it.
Camels.
Culture. Yeah, camels. Camels. But so all of that, is very interesting. And I mean, you can certainly relate to, we in America are really rich and we certainly do not have very fertile soil in some cases. But the verse that I really settled on, because I think that it applies in a lot of different ways, not just wealth related, is Matthew 19, 25 to 26. It says, the disciples were astounded and they said, then who in the world can be saved? Jesus looked at them intently and said, humanly speaking, it is impossible. But with God, everything is possible. And I was just like, man. And it really made me think about the people in our lives, even that maybe we've been praying for 10 years. They still have not accepted Jesus. Or maybe our neighbor who we think there's no way that guy's going to find God, whatever that is, or a family member or a friend or whoever it is. And or even just like some people that were like, dude, that person is legitimately evil. And there's this question of, then who in the world can be saved? But Jesus says, humanly speaking, yeah, you're right. It is impossible. It is impossible for you to save that person in your life. It just is. But with God, everything is possible.
Sure. Hang on. Hold right. I'm going to give you a break right now. Hang on. Listen, my last Zoom call, it was drumming right above my head. So
was it really?
Oh yeah, it's good time.
2020 has changed things. Yeah. Let's go back to that.
All right. So I don't know. I think with this conversation, it's funny because you're talking about the disciples who did give up everything. They dropped their nets to follow Jesus. They took off and left everything to follow him. And I think this is a good reminder of, wow, you remember when you guys dropped everything and you followed me? Well, now this guy, look at all of the stuff he has. It's a lot harder for him. And I think that makes a lot of a lot of sense in the fact that, man, not it's not really easy, but you hear a lot of people that turn to God or find their faith when they hit rock bottom, or they're in a place
Yes,
where everything is horrible. So then
true.
all they have is to turn to God, and they do that. It's a lot harder for people that everything is going well and they're in control of everything and they have everything they need to say, you know what, I'm going to turn my life over, and that's to see that and like, well, who can be saved? Well, it's got to be people that, it's not going to be a human thing. It's going to be something bigger than that. Once again, he's saying, hang on,
Yeah.
hang on.
Hang on. I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
That's like the theme of today. Hang on. I got this.
Yeah, I got this.
But I think it can also be encouraging too, and people talking about this a lot, especially as it relates to sharing your faith, sharing Jesus with people, where and I've heard this in from a number of different sources, but that it can be very encouraging to say, okay, my role in evangelism, in sharing Jesus, is to do the best that I can, put myself out there, ask the questions. But ultimately, whether or not they are saved is in God's hands. And that can kind of be a relief, because it's a relief to know I am not the deal closer on this. I am over here and I'm planting seeds and I'm asking questions, and that's it. And God's got the rest.
Yeah, and it's going to be his timing. Like, you look at that conversation and Jesus is like, "Hey, do these things." He's like, "Oh, got it. Yeah, I'm in." And then, by the way, get rid of everything.
I'm not in. I take it back.
And then once again, we're left with, where does this story go? We don't know. We're left with this kind of place, and it says he's saddened by it. So does he go back and month, 2 month, the year, does he reconsider? Does he just go back to his old way of life? Did that plant that seed that then grows into something more? We don't know. And that's kind of where it's at, is he's presented with this. Initially, he's like, nah, I can't do that. But does it weigh on him or move in his life where he starts making changes in his life to then work into that direction? I don't know. Like, is he an extra in the movie in one of these scenes and it's like, oh, that's the guy who was supposed to give up everything. He actually did. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Okay, next steps.
Next
You go
step.
first.
Hey, it's the theme of the day. It's the thing.
I was one of my options, and then I was like, I'll let Eric go first.
I got this. and where in your life right now do you have to look at where Jesus is saying, hold on, like, I'm here with you. I got this. It might not look the way you think it's supposed to look right now, but it's going to get there, and having the patience to see it through.
Yeah.
So
mine is related to the second part of our talk for those people in your life that you were trying to bring to Jesus. I want to challenge you to pray and ask God to show them that they need him. Because especially in America, so often we don't realize that we need him because we're not at rock bottom, but we do. And so I just want to challenge you, those people in your life, pray all this week, every day this week, at one point every day, and say, God, can you tell this person, can you start to stir up in their heart and to bring it to mind that they really need you? And I believe he will do that.
look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then just hold on. Just hang on.
Because he's got this.
He's got this.
It all comes together.
It all works together. It all works together.
Okay, so thank you for listening
week,
to What Now with Anna and Eric. Next week, we will be continuing in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yes.
I don't think we're quite to no, we're not.
No.
We're not quite to the big moment. I think we still have at least another week or two before we get there. If you don't know what that big moment is, be excited.
Can we spoil? Do we have a special guest next week?
Oh, wait. Is that next week?
That would be.
We have a special guest coming in. Yeah, you're right. It is next week. We have a special guest coming in who is going to podcast with us, the ever cool Lindsey Grant.
See, you gotta tease these things. You can't just leave. You gotta get people. She's a draw. She's a big deal.
Yes. Technically, this will be our first guest. Kelly Drake was not really a guest. She was just more like a co-host. So I would say she replaced Eric rather than being in.
Was that this year?
That was this year, yeah.
Was it?
She co-hosted.
Yeah.
So we had one
here.
co-host, so
Can't
we're gonna have
get
one
rid of that
guest.
easy. Can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah. So that's gonna be excited. So we're excited to talk to you next week. It's gonna be great. Have
There
an
you go.
awesome day.
See ya.